Thanks for joining us. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Partnkar. And yes, we've got that question answered for you on today's program, the one that so many of you have been asking. Sure, we already took the new Creta and we already pitted it against what's been the segment benchmark. That car is the Renault Duster, and the Duster has managed to retain its crown. But you do have this other car that's recently driven in, isn't it? And that's the S-Cross from Maruti Suzuki. They aren't exactly comparable because that one's a crossover, this one's a compact SUV. But to the buyer, does any of that ever matter? Of course not. Many of you are considering both these cars, so of course we're going to put them right against each other, head to head. Now on the S-Cross, you get two diesel options. There's the 1.3 and the 1.6 DDIS. On the Creta, you have two diesels, the 1.4 and the 1.6, and you also have a petrol option. And there is also an automatic on the 1.6 diesel, something the S-Cross doesn't have. Now, interesting fact, that car, the S-Cross, its bookings opened way back on the 18th of June. The bookings for the Creta opened on the 2nd of July, but the Creta arrived first in terms of its formal launch. That happened, and you got the prices. The more recent entrant is, of course, the S-Cross, which only came in August, and that's when you got to know its prices. I have gone on record to say both cars to me are a little bit overpriced, but the trivia I want to give you is even more interesting than that. 18th of June, so far, as of last Thursday, those are the official figures we have from Maruti Suzuki. 6,500 S-Cross bookings is what Maruti's taken in. On the Creta, bookings opened after that car, remember, 33,000 and counting. Do I have to tell you which one's the runaway hit? But we aren't going by just bookings, as they don't really give you the whole picture on how capable each vehicle is. When it comes to design, it's subjective, of course. The S-Cross does have a good-looking design with smart crossover proportions, and it offers a dash of premium character which no Maruti had before. But the Creta gets a bit more appeal in its looks with the SUV stance and the impressive face. The S-Cross has a marginally higher wheelbase than the Creta at 2600mm, meaning both vehicles offer generous space on the inside. The ground clearance on the Creta is slightly higher than the S-Cross's, and being an SUV, I guess it needs to be. On the inside, the S-Cross has the smarter cabin with the black treatment working for it. The Creta could have benefited from warmer beige tones, as the current palette is a bit dull and makes the cabin look smaller. Feature-wise, both are well loaded. The Hyundai Creta has three engine options, 1.4 litre and 1.6 diesel, and the 1.6 litre petrol. The 1.4 litre diesel comes mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox, while the 1.6 diesel has the 6-speed automatic and the 6-speed manual. The S-Cross comes with those two diesel engines, like I mentioned, the 1.6 and the 1.3 DDIS, both mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now, Maruti really lucked out when it managed to strike a deal with Fiat for the sourcing of these engines, the Multijet, what Maruti calls DDIS. Wow, I mean, these engines just do everything right. You get the right kind of power, you get the right kind of torque delivery, and while the 1.6 is a little bit loud and clattery, it's loud and clattery in a kind of a nice way because it doesn't really bother you when you're driving the car. And where am I going with all of this? It's a gem of a motor. It's also mated really beautifully to the 6-speed manual gearbox, though I would have liked to see, more from a contemporary requirement point of view than anything else, an automatic as well, because it's not like Suzuki doesn't offer automatics in Europe as well with the same engine. But it is great that after all this waiting, we finally got this really nice, really fun 1.6 motor into the market as well. It's something Maruti should have done a long, long time ago. We can't really comment on the 1.3 litre diesel on the S-Cross because Maruti hasn't given it to us to drive yet. but we're hoping to get that variant soon on the show. With the Creta, it's the 1.6 that we've been driving, automatic in the past, and then the manual today. And there was more reason to smile behind the wheel this time. Now, the last time we had the Creta on the show, I remember telling you that the automatic, well, it's just really not a fun, exciting car to drive. The manual, by comparison, is miles ahead. It's a lot more fun, and the 6-speed gearbox, again, mated very nicely to this engine. It almost feels like it's a different engine altogether. That's how different the character you get on the manual gearbox. Now, having said all of that, what I want to also quickly highlight is that there is that little bit of a, I won't call it a dead zone, but it's like a boring zone that you seem to fall between about 1200 and 1600 RPM, and the turbocharger kicks in very consciously after that. Then the engine's character changes dramatically. Now, on the S-Cross as well, you do have a bit of turbo lag, but it's overall just a more refined engine. It's also a little bit more punchy. And so, given that, I would have to say that even though this as a package works very well, when you compare it to the S-Cross, that car just stays a little bit ahead. With a diesel automatic in its kitty, the Creta does offer a bit more choice to the consumer than the S-Cross. When you compare, the S-Cross drives more like a hatch as it sits lower. There is a touch of body roll by comparison on the Creta, though the Creta's ride quality and seating position are great. And then there is that one negative that both vehicles share. When the Creta was launched, Hyundai wasn't its usual aggressive self, and so the overpricing surprised many. But then Maruti Suzuki came and took things further downhill by pricing the S-Cross at inexplicably premium rates. Overall, the S-Cross does offer fairly good driving dynamics and looks to match, but its premiumness, especially in pricing, is its Achilles heel. So the Hyundai Creta wins this battle as the overall package, from features to engine options and delivering what buyers are craving for, SUV-ness coupled with comfort and convenience. It is certainly more promising than the S-Cross, and so expect the bookings to stay strong on this good-looking compact SUV.